All right, so in this lesson here, we're going to talk about um, variables. So let me pull up my slides, share my screen, and I think at this point we'll kind of be toggling back and forth in between the slides and some actual coding. Okay, so let's get into variables. All right, so now we looked at the five primitive data types. Let's look at how we can store them. All right, because what we want to do, we want to be able to store this information as we get it. What I mean by that is, let's say right now, if I have console.log, I'm just going to put right in here the string foo, and you may see that quite often, foo, like so. It's just kind of programming talk. That doesn't mean anything. It just represents some entity, what have you. There you can see foo. Right now, it's like I can, just type it out, and uh, it only, well, when I console something, it happens immediately, if you will, but we can't store it, not as of yet. But you can see we use a variable, and a variable is just a container that stores, get this, a singular piece of data. So you can think of a variable as a box that we can store information in. And that box can be put away until we need to use it. And then we can use it as much as is required. Okay. So that's what a variable is. And here, a variable is basically just a container. And the important thing you need to know is that it stores a singular piece of data. So I can say, well, before we get into that, let's look at the syntax. Here's the syntax for a variable. We have the var keyword, as you can see right here. So we have to start off typing var, and that lets um, JavaScript know that we are about to write a variable. Okay. The next thing is the variable name. Okay. And so there's some conventions that we'll look at about the variable name and how we write them. But you have the variable name. And then what's next is uh, what we would like to think of as an equal sign. But in JavaScript, this is not an equal sign. This is what we call the assignment operator. Okay. And the assignment operator, it gives value to something, or what I like to say is it means gets. Okay. So what we're doing is we're assigning a container or a variable some value. Okay. And then lastly, we assign the variable with our data. Okay. So let's start with this. So we have this greeting right here. I wanted to show you because see, I can say console. If we go to our Visual Studio Code, I can say console.log hello. Okay. And of course, that's going to console hello. Y'all see that now. But what we can do is we can take that data, this string hello, and we can store that in a variable. We can say var greeting gets hello, like so. And right now, you see it doesn't do anything, or I'll say hello again right here, just so we can know for sure that nothing is popping up. So I don't see hello again anywhere. Okay, so here what we're doing, we are initializing a variable called greeting, and we are assigning it a value of the string hello again in what we did in Visual Studio Code. And so that reads var greeting gets hello again. That's how we would read this. So it's really easy for us to say var greeting equals hello again. And while, some people do that and it's okay, we understand what you mean. what you want to say and what you are really doing is saying var greeting gets hello again. And that's what you'll hear me say. You'll hear me say gets as opposed to um, equals, because I want to be very clear about what that symbol is. Again, it's not an equal sign, it is an assignment operator. So we're assigning the variable greeting with the value hello again. And we can do that with anything. We can say var a number gets -4. I can do that as well, and that works just fine. All right, let's move along. Let's talk about some naming conventions. Okay, here are a list of some of the rules. We're not going to say some of the rules, but these are the rules when it comes to naming variables. All right. Variables must start with a letter, underscore, or $sign. In most cases, it will be with a letter, generally lowercase. All right. So all variables must start with a letter, underscore, or $sign. I'm going to make some comments right here. I'm going to say variable rules. Rule number 1, variable names must start with a letter, underscore, or $sign. Okay. And in most cases, it will start with a lowercase letter. All right. So what that means is we can't say var var 8 food. That's not going to work. Okay. We cannot start with a number. Cannot start with a special character like so. You see, we get an error message when we try to write a variable with a special character. No hyphens. That doesn't work. Okay. Now we can do an underscore. All right. And you may see something like this. Some people like to do that. You may see that it starts with an underscore. You can also, again, start with a number, but I would stay away from this because it usually does something different. Okay. So this is not recommended at all. You can just say var, my name, something like that. So something like this. And what you cannot do, let me also mention this. I can't say Satch gets var food. So it doesn't work like, the commutative property or anything. So again, because it's not equals, all right, this is an assignment operator. So we're assigning value to something, not saying that, these two entities are equal. All right, so you can't do that. So that's the first rule. Variable names must start with a letter, underscore, or $sign. Okay. Second, names cannot contain spaces. What we do is we use camel case or underscore. Okay. So let me write that down. Variable names cannot have spaces. So I can't say, var my age. That doesn't work right there. I can say my age, something like that. But if I want to make this more readable, I can say my underscore age, or what we call camel case, where the first letter of the variable name is lowercase. And then for every word every following word in the variable name, the first letter is capitalized, like so. Or I could say, var my age in dog years. Okay. So that is okay. We can do that. But no spaces. All right. Oh. Cannot be the same as JavaScript keywords. This is another rule. Cannot be the same as JS keywords. So in other words, a keyword like function, I can't say var function, okay? Because function is a keyword that has been assigned to JavaScript. And since it's already in JavaScript lexicon, we can't use this right here. So that couldn't work. I can say var my function, something like that. But can I use the function keyword? I mean, can I use a JavaScript keyword? No special characters, and we looked at that. So we can't use the at handle symbol. I forget what it's exactly called, but we can't use that. No hashtags or octothorpe. That's what it's called. No star. No hyphens. Okay, this is important. Some people like to use a hyphen. You cannot do that when it comes to variable names. And no percent symbols. So can I use that when creating a variable name? And this last one is not necessarily a rule, but this is a very good practice, and it's something I strongly encourage. Variable names should mean something. They should indicate what that particular piece of data represents. And this part is so important. What does that mean? Again, I could do something like, var g gets 45. Okay. But we don't really know what G means. It doesn't really mean anything. It doesn't represent anything for real. So this makes it very hard for, yourself or other developers to kind of understand the flow of your your program. So we want the variable names to mean something. So I can say var my age gets 45. And that right there, that's acceptable. So you want to make sure that you definitely follow these 4 rules. You have to follow these 4 rules because otherwise it will break. But especially when it comes to naming things, you want to use a variable name that means something. Sometimes it can be long, var inventory after last shipment, something like that. Or let's say inventory total, something like that. And it may be long. That's okay. But the important thing is that we're taking the information and we're storing it into a container. All right. So let's go back and look at this. So what we can do here, again, way up here, we have var greeting gets hello again. And we look in the console, nothing is displayed. But what we're going to do, it's now that it's been stored away, we can call on it when we want to. We can say console.log greeting, spell it correctly. And you can see that here, Visual Studio Code, it helps out. Here you see it lets us know, hey, greeting is in the scope of this, and it lets me know what it is, var greeting, and it is a string. So it lets me know what it is. So here I'm consoling greeting, and there you can see hello again. And you notice that it shows that this this command was executed on line 89. Even though I wrote the variable way up here on line 69, on 89, that's when that code has been executed. So we can also do this. So you see I have a number right here stored away as -4, and I have my age here 45. I can do something like this. I can say console.log my age plus, was it a number? A number. And when I do that, you see it processes it and returns 41. Because what's happening here is we're saying, okay, my age, there's something in there. All right, that's 45. Okay, cool. A number. Okay, that's what, -4. All right, cool. So I take 45 plus -4, and then it's going to return 41. So that's something we can do with variables. We can store information in them however we choose, and then we can call that information as we need to, like we did here in this example. And there's obviously more things that we can do with it, but this is showing you how a variable works. All right, so a useful feature with variables is that they can be changed at any time, hence the name variable, because it can change. So let's create a variable called foo. So I'm gonna start off with like so. I'm gonna say var foo. And as I do this right here, this is okay. This is acceptable. The code is not broken. What I did here is I initialized a variable called foo. Here we initialize the variable foo, meaning that it exists. However, it hasn't been assigned anything, and we can later assign it a value. So before we do that, let's look at this. So here we have var foo. Okay, what I'm going to do above, let me clear. Where's my clear? There you are. Let's do this. I'm going to clear this stuff out above it so we can see what's happening here. So nothing in the console. Cool. All right. And the first thing I'm going to do is on line 94, I'm going to say console.log foo. And when I do that here, well, let's see. Let me comment that out first. When I commented out, so I said console.log foo, okay, and notice here that var foo has been commented out. And I get uncalled reference error. Foo is not defined. I get this error message. What does that mean? It means that my app.js file doesn't have a clue what foo is. It doesn't exist, if you will. Foo, when it says uncalled reference error, what we simply mean is there is no reference to foo inside of this particular file. All right. So I'm gonna come over here. I'm gonna bring this down right here, and I'm gonna uncomment my var foo. Okay. And now when I do that, it shows up undefined. So in other words, saying, hey, I know what foo is, but foo has no definition. It hasn't been assigned anything. So here, var foo, here when I console it, it shows up undefined because I haven't given foo any value. And this is different from the error message that we saw where it said uncaught reference error. Um, yeah, basically foo does not exist. There is no foo. What is foo? But now here I'm saying var foo and then console.log foo and it shows up undefined. So now let's assign it value. Okay, so I'm going to say here, right below, I'm going to say foo gets 8. And then I'm going to console.log out foo again. All right, so same thing. So first var foo, console.log foo. And then what I'm doing here is I'm assigning it the value 8. And I don't say var foo again. I just say foo because JavaScript knows what foo is. There's reference to it. And when I do that, here I get 8. So we can change the value of what's inside of the variable because again, the variable is just a box. It's simply a container. Okay. And just like you could like a box, you know, order something from Amazon. Okay. And it comes in a box, whatever it is that you order. You can take the contents of that box out and then store something else inside of it. And that's essentially what we're doing here. We are going to create this box called foo. At first, there's nothing in it, so its value is undefined. The next thing we do is we put something in that box. We put the number 8 in that box. Okay, so then when we console, we see the number 8. But then we can also, again, we can change it up. And it doesn't have to just be the same data type. So I can say foo gets carry on my wayward son. And now when I log out foo, I get the string carry on my wayward son. So with variables, know that we can change what its value is. All right. And they can be changed at any time whenever we want to, as we need to, which sometimes is a good thing, sometimes it's not. Sometimes you want your variables to remain the same thing throughout the program. Other times you'll want to change it. Okay. So along with change that, we have a special way to change variables, and that is called augmented arithmetic. So let's see what that looks like. I'm going to come back over here. I'm going to set foo back to 8. So I can say foo gets 8. All right. And then if I want to add 7 to it, I'd have to do it like this. I can say foo gets foo plus 7. So what's happening here is foo has been set to 8. So when I come here and I reset foo, I'm saying I'm looking on the right side of my assignment operator, processing what's going on in here. So this would be 8 plus 7. That's going to be 15. And I'm going to take that and store it into foo. That's what's happening here. So when I say foo gets foo plus 7, again, I'm just saying, well, foo is 8. So 8 plus 7, store that back into foo. So then foo becomes 15. Well, the variable might not be foo. Maybe it's, you see here, applications received, or maybe it's something that's really difficult to write, or not necessarily difficult to write, but maybe the variable name is very long. In which case, if it's very long, I don't want to have to write, like say, var applications received, gets, I don't know, 34. And I can say applications received gets applications received plus, say we get 19 more. That's a little too much. I don't want to type all that. As developers, again, we can tend to be a little lazy, and so we want to change this up. So how can we do that? We do that with augmented arithmetic. And so we write shorthand using this right here, this plus equals, if you will. And I don't even know exactly what to call it, but instead of this foo gets foo plus 7, I'm going to comment that out. And I'll rewrite this as foo plus equals 7. And this does the exact same thing. It just makes it shorter and easier to write. And with this, you can see here, you can do similar operations like so. So plus equals 7, you can do minus equals 7, times equals 7, divided equals 7, or however you word that. Again, I don't know the exact language for that, but it does the exact same thing. So I would take foo. Here I'm saying foo gets foo minus 7. Foo gets foo times 7. Foo gets foo divided by 7. That's what's happening here. All right. Before we move any further, let's talk again about these comments. You have two types of comments in JavaScript. You have what are the single line comments, which is just 2 forward slashes. And then you have multi-line comments, where you have /* at the beginning and then end it with a */. And you can write, as you can see, multiple lines of comments like so. And comments, again, are very important in programming. Your documentation is so important. You want to make sure that when you're building an application, that it's very clear in human terms what you're doing, and comments are a part of that. It helps you to track the flow of what you're doing while you're working through it, because maybe you need to go back and look at something, or someone else can follow behind you and kind of see what are you doing. So with that being said, I'm gonna stop this video right here. We'll end this one. So you can go back and look and practice with variables, just storing information into different containers. Practice, naming things, and also you can practice doing some of the arithmetic if you wish to as well. And then in the next video, we're going to talk about arrays.